There are a million stories in the naked city. Jerusalem is no exception. The story you are about to hear is true. None of the names have been changed because the innocent don't need protecting. It's the guilty that we're into nailing. And as you will see, there is no shortage on the guilty. We have our detectives, Joe Thursday and Frank Cannon. They have been working some long hours trying to process all the paperwork on the 1096s that had turned over on the Passover holiday. 1096, that's disturbing the peace, disorderly conduct. We get a lot of that around the holidays. The worst offenders are those who celebrate a little too much and then they get on their donkeys. Some of the things they've seen would turn your stomach. But on this particular morning, they had pulled an all-nighter, trying to get all the loose ends tied. The call came in around 8 in the morning. It was from a lady named Mary Magdalene. They recognized her immediately because they had booked her on a 2783 just days before, disturbing the peace at a public execution. But they knew Mary from long before that. She had what you would call a checkered past. In all honesty, she had a rap sheet so long you would need cliff notes to get through it. But that's another story entirely. They decided to head over to her place to get the story.
Hey Joe, I've been thinking, you should looking in a chariot. What this horse is really wearing me out.
Why do you think they call it a beat, Frank?
Yes?
Ma'am, I'm Joe Thursday. This is my partner, Frank Cannon. Are you Mary Magdalene?
Yes.
You called our precinct about a 3089?
3089?
Yes, ma'am. Stolen body.
Oh, yes, officer. I didn't call, but one of my friends did. Please, come in.
If you could tell us what happened, ma'am?
I'm sure you don't remember me, but I was at the last execution last Friday, and
We remember, ma'am. In the melee, my partner here got hit with a fish. We issued you a citation for disturbing the peace.
oh, I'm sorry about that. I was really upset.
Understandable, ma'am. You were saying?
We were heading down to the grave of a man who was executed last Friday.
That would be Jesus of Nazareth, correct?
That's right. We just arrived when we saw that the stone was removed from the front of the entrance of the tomb.
And who was with you?
My friend Mary Ann Solon, the mother of James.
And why are you going to his tomb, ma'am?
We had some spices and oils, and we were going to anoint his body.
And how exactly were you planning on unsealing the tomb and bypassing the guards?
We really didn't know that there were going to be any guards. After all, he was dead. And as far as the tomb was concerned, we were talking about it on the way there. We figured we could get a large branch, and with enough leverage, we could get it to roll.
Ma'am, that stone must have had half a ton.
We didn't really think it through, but it didn't matter. The stone was already removed from the front entrance.
And where were the guards?
Like I said, we didn't know there were going to be any, and there weren't.
So did you enter the tomb?
I was the first one upon entering, and I noticed the body was gone.
Did you disturb the scene at all, ma'am?
Well, I did pick up the grave clothes. The grave clothes were scattered across the floor, except for the headpiece. It was folded neatly and placed where you'd been laid.
Go on.
But there was nothing else there. The tomb was completely disconnected.
Then what'd you do?
I came out and to tell the other women as they went in. I started to cry as I was kind of in a shock.
The other two women didn't follow you in?
No, we were afraid whoever removed from the stone might have been still in there.
So then you came back here and called us.
Well, as I was crying, Mary Ann Solon came running back. As they were sending, there was a blinding light.
Light, ma'am?
Yes, like a sheet of lightning, but there was no sound. We fell to our knees, and on the right side of the tomb was someone or something. He told us not to be afraid.
Did it work?
Ma'am, could you describe the man?
Not the light that I described.
So you didn't get a look at his face?
I'm sure he didn't even have one.
Ma'am?
Like I said, this light looked like it was coming directly at him. We couldn't really look at him.
Uh-huh. So, did this light say anything else?
Yes, he told us not to. He told us not to be afraid. He told us. He told us Jesus has been risen up. Go see for yourself. He's going on to head of you into Galilee. That's what exactly as he said.
Okay, so let me get this straight. You come here barely after dawn, loaded with spices and oils. You don't know how you're going to get the tomb open, but when you get here, the stone has been conveniently rolled away. So you go into the tomb, and the body and the guards that were assigned to watch it are gone. Then a light appears and tells you that this Jesus character has somehow raised himself from the dead, and instead of going to Disneyland, he's headed to Galilee. Is that about right?
Almost.
So what did I miss, sister?
Well, right after the light faded, we started to turn to go meet the disciples to mourn his death, about Jesus being gone. But I started to turn around because I forgot spices and oils. That's when I saw him.
Him?
Jesus, he was just standing there. He called me by my name.
Hold on a minute, ma'am. So, you're saying that the man we saw die on Friday was talking to you?
I know it sounds strange, but I would believe it I know it sounds strange.
No, ma'am. Hearing that Papadokas has balakava on sale is strange. But this is just downright unbelievable.
I'm telling you the truth, officer. I wouldn't believe it either if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes.
Seems a little convenient that your girlfriends weren't there to corroborate your story.
They didn't believe me either.
So then, after you had the conversation with the deceased, you came back here and called us.
That's right.
Oh.
Alright, so you realize, of course, that you're on the top of the suspect list for the body snatching.
But why would I want to steal his body?
Simple, really. His body disappears, and you and the rest of the Jesus zealots still have a Messiah.
That's ridiculous. We'll never do that.
Wouldn't you?
Of course not. We couldn't.
Couldn't you?
Now stop it. We have nothing to do with Jesus disappearing.
Didn't you?
Ma'am, we'll be in contact with you. Just don't plan on leaving town for a few days.
Of course not. We have nothing to do with Jesus disappearing.
Haven't you?
That's enough, Frank. We'll need those grave clothes as evidence. We'll be in touch, ma'am.
Seems pretty obvious who's behind this.
Perhaps, Frank, but I don't think the Jesus zealots have anything to do with it.
How? Who else has a motive?
Well, it's not a question about motive, Frank. It's the M.O. I'm a little foggy on.
How so?
Well, it doesn't make sense. These people obviously cared about Jesus, and if you're going to steal a body, you were going to steal it without the burial clothes.
Maybe. If you want to make it look like the guy just raised up from the dead, you might.
Yeah, maybe. But why fold the headpiece and leave the rest of the clothes on the tomb floor? Seems to me you'd make it consistent to be as miraculous as possible.
I still say this dead guy's rupees are the prime suspects.
Maybe, Frank. But before we go jumping into any further conclusions, we should investigate further. Let's see if the guards have any information.
Right. Hey, Joe. Is Papa Do's really having a sale on baklava? Getting kind of hungry.
Not before the salad, Frank.
A quick check of the police report showed that there were 2 guards on duty when the body disappeared. Charlie Afta and Raymond Wynn. Remember that. It's important. Well, Frank and Joe decided to look for Wynn and Afta in the most likely place they could think of. They tried the IHOP, with no success. They picked up a bag full of goodies for the road. Nothing special. A couple of muffins, assorted pastries, a cruller. They decided if they couldn't find the guards on duty at the time of the theft, that they would see if they could get to Pilot's side of the story. As luck would have it, they ran into the guards they were searching for along the way. They seemed to be quite agitated, like they had something to hide.
When?
Cannon?
Thursday.
When?
After?
Cannon.
Joe?
Frank? Okay, Frank, that's enough.
Sorry. So you really want to tell us what happened this morning?
Why? What have you heard?
So we got a call from Mary Magdalene, and she said her and her sewing circle, they came upon the tomb of the blasphemer we buried a couple days ago when the body was gone. You two were on duty, right?
Nope.
Charlie, yes, we were on duty last night.
We're only concerned who was on duty during the time of the theft.
That would be us.
So you've been on duty for 3 days.
No, sir, we came on duty last night.
And you were there after?
No, sir. I came on at the same time.
As who?
When?
Last night.
Right.
We need to know who was on duty with you.
When?
Last night.
Yep.
Who?
When?
Last night.
Yes.
Who?
When?
Last night.
Yep.
So who?
When?
Alright.
You know what? Frank, you ask the questions.
Alright, let's try you, Win. You were last night?
Yes, sir.
Good. Who was on with you?
After.
After you came to work.
Yes, sir.
Who was on with you?
After.
After you came to work.
Yes, sir.
Who was on with you?
After.
After. You know what? Let's do this. You were last night?
Yes, sir. I
Good.
did.
You were last night?
Yes, sir, I did.
Good. All yours, Joe.
Thanks, Frank. So, after, what's the story?
Well, we were on our way to guard the tomb, and you better ask when.
If I didn't know better, I'd say he's more uptight than a minister on wine testing. So, what's the story, Win?
Well, like he said, Joe, we were guarding the tomb when all of a sudden a bunch of dead guys groupies showed up.
You don't say.
Sure I do. They overpowered us and took our weapons, you know, to make it look like maybe the body just disappeared.
Is that so?
Yeah, that's right.
So, how many of them were there?
Oh man, I'm guessing there are like 8 of them.
Uh-huh, and what kind of weapons did they use?
Oh, weapons.
Yeah, weapons. You and Afta had your standard Mark Anthony spears, right?
Yeah.
So, what weapons did they use to overpower you with?
Honestly, Joe, I think they used their bare hands.
And how many of them did you take down?
What do you mean?
With your spears, how many of them were you able to fight off before they overpowered you?
Oh man, I'm guessing there are like 2 or 3 of them until they overpowered us.
Is that right, Afta?
Whatever he says, that's what happened.
You guys are pretty lucky then, huh?
How so, Joe?
Well, the 2 of you look pretty good for 4 guys on each of you. I'd think that you'd be pretty beaten up, especially since, you know, these guys took 2 of you on. But, look at you. You look like you're ready for the temple.
Oh?
Let's see. Yeah. What gives, Win? There's not a spot of blood on the spear. Not even a drop at the crime.
Maybe I missed.
Oh, come on, Raymond. You know Joe. He ain't gonna buy this story.
X not gonna look not, Charlie?
That's not gonna help, Win. You forgot I minored in Pig Latin at the academy. So, let's see. What was that rule?
Can you two just tell us what really happened?
Well, we went to tell Pilate what happened, and he just told us to tell everyone. that the disciples took the body to make it look like he came back to life.
Oh, great, we're dead men.
Just tell us what happened.
Well, we were guarding the tomb, just like we were supposed to be. Wayne had just told this really funny joke.
Oh yeah, this guy walks in with a hijab under his arm.
That's great, Raymond. Then what happened?
And then he said, we don't...
No, Raymond, I mean at the tomb.
Well, there's an earthquake
When?
right before sunrise.
I didn't feel anything.
That's what Pilate said, but it happened. It seemed like it lasted forever.
Then what?
Well, that's when it got really weird.
Like?
Well, it got really bright, like nothing I'd ever seen.
And then?
And then we saw... Jesus. And then we saw the tomb was open.
And that's it?
What? Wasn't that enough?
I suppose it'll have to be. Come on, Frank. We need to talk to Pilate.
Okay. Hey, Joe, I have a question. You said your minor was Pig Latin. What was your major?
Forensic investigation of otherwise unexplainable post-mortem disappearances.
Wow, ironic.
Ain't it? Have a good breakfast.
So, Joe, what do you
Okay,
think?
thanks, Raymond. Let's get some
You saw an
breakfast.
earthquake last night?
No, you?
Neither did I. Something tells me this ain't gonna be a simple body snatching. Let's go talk to Pilate.
Got it. You want to get some breakfast first, Joe?
We got a bag of snacks for you.
Sure, do you think I'll last before lunch?
Yes, I do, Frank. Now grab a bag of goodies.
Can't we just grab a breakfast burrito or something?
Just the snacks, Frank. Just the snacks.
With the big guy. Ever since last week, when they had to execute this Jesus character, he'd been acting kind of funny. Given what they had heard from when and after, they knew they'd have to dance around the issue with Pilate. They found him the way they had found him the last few times they had seen him, in the bathroom.
Who is it?
Hey, Chief. It's Thursday, Cannon.
Oh, hello, gentlemen. I've been expecting you.
I can see that.
What? Oh, nothing personal. Just can't be too clean, I say. So, what's on your mind, gentlemen?
Okay, Chief. We're here about the 3089.
What? Oh, of course. The grave robbery. I think we have that one pretty much solved.
We ran to an act on the way in.
When?
Just a few minutes ago.
What was just a minute ago?
When?
You just said just a few minutes ago?
Right.
So what was just a few minutes ago?
When?
Just now.
Never mind. Wait, what do you mean the grave robbery just about solved?
Isn't it obvious? The followers of this Jesus came and stole the body.
Yes. On the surface, it would appear so. But things just don't add up.
Like the stone? They couldn't move it.
There were maybe 24 of them. You can move the stone.
24? When and after said there were only 8.
Oh, did they? Well, 8 of them couldn't move it.
Perhaps. How do you explain the earthquake?
What earthquake? I never felt an earthquake. Did you?
No, but we understand there may have been one.
Nope. The disciples stole the body. Make it look like Jesus rose from the dead. That's our story. And if you two know it's good for you, you'll stick to it as well.
Now, let me ask you something, Chief. Do you really believe that?
Well, I mean, of course. Of course I do. I mean, what other choice do I have?
What do you mean, Chief?
Look, if the disciples aren't responsible for the body disappearing, how else could it have disappeared? The only other possibility is just not possible.
You mean you think that this Jesus character might have actually risen from the dead?
We'll start spreading rumors like that.
Think it's actually possible, huh?
Well, I mean, of course not. I mean, well, that would mean
That he really was the Messiah that he claimed to be.
exactly. We know that can be true, right? So why don't the two of you run along and run us as man's disciples, bring a little bit of closure to this whole nasty incident, okay?
We'll try, Chief, but we can't make any arrests without some sort of evidence pointing to the disciples.
Well, then find some. I'm not going to live for the rest of my life with the guilt of having somebody go to their death mistakenly. Now, if you two will excuse me, I have to go take another shower.
That was weird.
Well, many leaders have been eccentric through the years, Frank.
Eccentric is one thing. That was weird.
The real question here, Frank, is what really happened up there?
I guess it depends on who you ask, Joe.
I don't know so, Frank. I think the truth is still out there. We might need to go find it.
So where to now, Joe?
I think we should ask the sewing circle's friends a few more questions.
Got it.
Frank and Joe headed back over to the Jesus People's hangout. Along the way, they picked up some of that baklava that they've been talking about. Turns out, it wasn't on sale after all. They bought some anyway. They figured that they would talk to the other ladies that were there too, to try to get some of what Mary told them corroborated. They had a funny feeling about this one. Maybe it was the neatly folded headpiece on the tomb slab. Maybe it was the way Pilate had acted when he talked about Jesus' disappearance. Maybe it was the way the baklava was sitting on top of that cruller. Whatever it was, they needed answers, and they needed them soon.
You got some baklava on your cheek there, Frank.
Yes?
Jerusalem PD, sir. Are you Salome and Mary the Mother and James in?
I doubt it.
Either they are or they ain't, Nancy. Which is it?
They're not.
And you might be, sir.
I'm Thomas.
You were one of the disciples, right?
I doubt it.
Sure you were.
Prove it.
Maybe later. Can we come in now?
You got some ID?
Sure.
Show it.
You ever been to Missouri?
No, why?
No reason. Now can we come in?
I suppose so.
I recognize you as being in the crucifixion. Isn't it Peter?
Yes, I was there.
Kind of a different tune than the other night, eh?
What do you mean?
I mean, the other night I asked you if you knew Jesus and you downright said you didn't.
I was really confused. Everything was happening so fast.
Oh?
Yeah. A lot has happened since then.
I'll say, like you and your buddy deciding to keep your friend's legacy by stealing his body.
We would never do that.
Wouldn't you?
Let's not start that again, Frank.
Sorry.
Okay. So why should I believe you? You lied to us before.
I told you, I was confused.
So maybe you're confused now.
We had nothing to do with it.
You know, I don't buy it.
I don't either.
Neither do I.
Thomas, I was with you all morning.
That's right. Sorry, had it.
So where were you?
We were here all night talking about Jesus and that everything he said couldn't be true.
Yeah. How come?
Because if he was God, how could he?
Excuse me. You really think this Jesus character was God?
Yes, of course.
And now?
Now I know he was.
And how about you?
Well, let's just say I doubt it. I mean, when he was on Earth, I saw him do some amazing things, but I was there when they crucified him. I know he was dead.
But Thomas, do you remember what he said about coming back?
Oh, I know nothing of the sort. You're talking about rebuilding the temple.
Wait, is this Jesus we're talking about?
That's right.
Don't you see?
What did he say?
Well, don't you see? Everything he said was in the form of a parable. He was talking about his own body being the temple and that he would rise again in 3 days.
Oh, that's a stretch.
I have to go with a show me boy on this one. Seems like he could have been talking about a remodeling job or something. What else you got?
Well, he mentioned being killed but rising again in 3 days more than once. I don't need anything else. Mary wouldn't lie about this. She took this harder than any of us, but only because she was so realistic about it.
Until today, that is.
Right. Today he's come to do what he said he would do, to begin his reign here on earth.
I doubt it. Save it for the review board, Nancy. Either of you know when the women are coming back.
Well, they're out telling all their friends about Jesus coming back. I don't know how long that will take.
Fine, we'll be in touch.
I doubt we'll ever hear from you again.
You know what? For a follower of someone who may have just cornered the market on death, you have a pretty lousy attitude.
Thank you. I would just like to say, I like seeing things for myself.
Well, what's the matter, sunshine? Somebody lied to you about the Easter Bunny and now you don't believe anybody at all?
What's the Easter Bunny?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Come on, Frank.
Officers,
Yeah, Peter?
if Jesus comes back and tells us everything's alright, do you want us to give you a call?
You know what? Save your dime, Pete. If Jesus wants to make an appearance for us, he knows where we are. We're in the book.
And to feel good about this case. They hung in the air like smoke, choking the conclusions they were trying to reach. Hey, that's a pretty good line if I say so myself. Anyway, there were too many of them. Why had the grave clothes been left? Why was the headpiece folded? Why had Pilate taken a cruise on the Looney Tunes Express? How had the stone been run away? But most of all, I wanted to know why they wanted to believe Mary when her story was so unbelievable. Frank and Joe got a tip that a couple of disciples had headed to Emmaus, and they wanted to follow up with a few more of Jesus' quotes to see if there was more to this temple renovation thing. Frank had already talked with a few of them to get the details on some of the quote-unquote miracles that this Jesus character had performed. Frank and Joe picked up some fig-covered cheesecake on a stick and headed out on the 7-mile walk to Emmaus.
It's strange, Joe. I've been through a lot of investigations over the years, but I've never had someone come out with sweet as Jesus character.
Really? What about the temple incident?
I mean, that's just it, Joe. Sure, he turned over a few tables, but nobody got hurt in the process. Never even touched them.
So, what made it snap?
Well, that's another thing. Even when he went nuts, he did on principle, so it seemed very natural. Claimed the virgins were like desecrating his father's house.
So, his father? So he was actually laying claim to the divinity that the disciple put upon him.
Yes, but not in a power trip way. He was a very nice, kind person, liked talking about God's love. Only when he was pressed did he answer them with a question.
A question? What are you talking about?
Well, when they asked who he was, he said, "Who do you say I am?"
Seriously? Because to hear the Pharisees talk before the crucifixion, mind you, he was claiming daily that he was God and that the people needed to bow down to him.
Well, when they asked if he was king of the Jews, he did deny it. The best thing I could drag up on him is that he liked going around killing people and giving them a new lease on life.
Sounds like the reason to put him into death. But you think he was more than, you think he was more, Frank? More than just a prophet?
I don't know that I can say, Joe. He sure seems to make an impact on everyone he's come into contact with, though.
Who's that?
Whoa, stranger. Where'd you come from?
You must be fast. We haven't seen anyone since we left Jerusalem.
Who's that you said had an impact on everyone he came in contact with?
We were just discussing the case of Jesus the Nazarene.
Jesus the Nazarene?
Yes. Have you heard of him?
I'm familiar. Tell me more.
Well, he was a prophet, went around feeding people and healing them, giving them new hopes that they could overcome, let's say, anything that stood in their way. He was like a great order.
And?
And the chief priest and rulers handed him over to Pilate, when he be killed. He was executed last Friday and turned into a great stone. Some persons moved that stone and stole the body.
Why?
Well, the way we figure it, to make it look like Jesus had actually risen from the dead.
No, sir. What I meant was, why do you believe someone stole his body? Why do you not really believe he could be risen from the dead?
That just doesn't happen.
Oh,
Come on, buddy. I think you suppose that he rose from the dead.
well, yes, I do.
Why?
For one, it was prophesied.
You talking about Isaiah?
That's one, yes, but then the psalmist made several allusions to the Messiah rising from the dead, and then there was the others who were raised.
Like Lazarus.
He's one, yes.
So, listen, buddy, let's just say, for argument's sake, that Jesus did raise these people from the dead. He could have had a gift that was that kind of thing. But there is a significant difference here. He was the one who was also dead.
But you assume Jesus the man was the one who raised those people from the dead.
Isn't that what you just said?
No, what I just said was that those people were raised, not that Jesus the man was the one who raised them.
That's not what we heard. Jesus is the one that raised Lazarus.
Yes, but could a man raise another man from the dead?
What are you getting at?
What I'm getting at, my friend, is that a mere man alone cannot raise another man from the dead.
Right, so you believe he had celestial connections.
What do you believe?
I don't know what I believe.
Oh, come on, Frank. Don't tell me you're becoming one of them.
Think about it, Joe. It's the only thing that adds up.
How does a man rising from the dead add up?
Joe, you know what happened. They're good cops. They wouldn't lie to us, even though Pilate instructed them to.
But they didn't see Jesus.
No, but they saw the bright light.
So there was lightning.
They didn't describe lightning. They
That still
described a bright, sustained light.
That still doesn't mean...
And what about Pilate? You think he's been acting like himself since this all happened?
No, but that's a tough job. I've seen a lot of leaders crack under that kind of pressure.
But he is acting like someone who can't live with the guilt of having allowed an innocent man to go to his death.
Maybe. I still say it takes a lot of faith to make that kind of leap.
Blessed are those who have not seen but yet believe.
I think I do, mister. I think I do.
Say, you sound like you know this Jesus pretty well. You one of his followers?
Who do you say I am?
Hey, wait just a date-picking minute. You're...
Peace, my friends.
So, you want to go get something to eat?
Joe!
Now look, Frank. We've been working really hard. I think we're imagining things here.
Joe, that was Jesus. You know it.
All right, I know. But how is it possible, Frank? And where did he go?
I don't know. Wherever it is, we're going to find him.
Mind if I join you, partner?
As you can imagine, nothing was the same for them after that. They reported back to Pilate that they had found the body, but it was up walking and talking. That wasn't exactly what he wanted to hear, and they got busted down all the way to being basic beat cops. But it didn't matter. They had already heard that they had a couple of openings for disciples in the Jesus group, and they decided that that vocational change might do them some good. But neither of them ever forgot the day when a body came up missing and a whole lot more was found. Yep, there are a million stories in the Naked City. Frank and Joe plan on retelling this one many, many times, and those, my friends, they are the simple facts.